Assalamualaikum everyone, this is Ayesha from CxO Global Forum, a knowledge sharing platform for all the C levels across Pakistan and around the globe. Every time we have some very interesting guests with us. Today as well, we have some Mushtaq Rehman with us, who is the Change and Communications Manager at NEC Europe. Assalamualaikum sir, how are you?
Walaikum salam, Aisha. I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. So, starting off this interview with your background, can you tell me about your background and your experience in change management and communication, and how did you came to this manager position?
Sure. Yes, so I started out as an accountant. So I trained to be a chartered management accountant, and I worked in various financial roles before moving into IT SAP consultancy, which I did for a number of years. And then around 2007, I moved into more change management and communication type of role. And this is something which I really enjoy because I'm a people's person. And I know that often in any big change in an organization, the people side is sometimes ignored or not given enough attention. So that is one area that I developed my skills, and I also understand culture. And I've done a lot of work in that area to make sure that any change in an organization is aligned with this organization culture. Otherwise, it has very little chance of succeeding. So that's my brief journey into change management, and I've been doing it for the last 17 years, and I'm enjoying it.
Right. So, what inspired you to pursue a career in change and management and communications?
Yeah, so this is an area, as I mentioned, I enjoy working with people. I enjoy communicating with people, being out there, talking to them rather than just sitting at my desk and producing spreadsheets like I used to do as an accountant. Uh, and you can see the impact when you talk to people and explain to them what the change is and how it will make their life better, address their concerns, answer their questions, and connect with them. And then you can see the changes taking place, not just in the organization, but in people's minds, that they become more open to change. They are now willing to learn more about the change. They are ready to be trained. And over time, you see the performance improves. So you can see, you start to see the fruits of your hard work with them. And you take the whole organization and its people from where they are to where you want them to be.
Right. So, sir, what are your primary responsibilities that you have in this role currently?
Uh, so in change management, we start by assessing the change. We make sure that we understand the nature of change, why the change is being implemented. And once we've done our assessment and we understand what the change is and how it's going to impact the people in the organization, then we start by communicating with the people, with the stakeholders. We identify who are those who are impacted by this change, as well as the leaders who can influence the change. So we start with the initial communication, awareness for the need for
Right.
change. And then over time, we identify who need to be trained. If, for example, if it's a system change, then you identify people who need to be trained and make sure that they are appropriately trained. So that's the next step from awareness to readiness to the final option of change. And again, we support them while they're adopting the change to make sure that they understand the change, they're able to use the solution. Let's say if it's a system, then they understand how to use the system, they've learned, and over time they develop the skills. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you start to see the performance improving, you start to see the objectives of the change being met. So that is basically facilitate people's journey uh, throughout these stages of awareness adoption to achieving, over completing that journey with delivering the performance that is expected from them.
Right. So, sir, could you describe a typical day, like one day, I would say, in your current position?
Okay, so it depends on what phase of the project we're in. But like right now, we have completed the design of the new system. We're implementing a SAP for HANA solution. It's a global implementation. So now we focused on change impact assessment. So we're looking at the impact on people in the organization. And this work will then lead to learning need analysis. So we'll identify what type of training need to be provided. So yes, as I said, it changes depending on which phase you're in, but we're always assessing and understanding the change, connecting with people, explaining to them what the changes are, and making sure that we answer the questions. If there's any resistance, that we address that, and make sure that that resistance eventually changes to desire for the change and participating in that change and eventually adopting it.
Right. So, sir, how do you approach managing change within the organization? And what strategies do you basically employ to facilitate smooth transitions?
So part of our strategy is to make sure that we have the leaders visibly and actively supporting the change. They become true sponsors of change. They talk to the people because we can communicate with the masses, with the employees, but they always want to hear from the leaders, and they want to see, is this change important to the leaders? And that's why we work with the leaders. We often coach them and prepare them to communicate with their people and show them how the changes, how important the change is, and even role model that change to say that, to show that yes, I believe in this change as a leader. Here's what I'm
Right.
doing differently, and people can see that. Mention the change often in their meetings. So that's one area, focusing on the sponsors and making sure that they support the change. And then we also, among the people, we identify some influencers that people listen to or they go to, and we get them to communicate with their colleagues about the change. So that's part of our change management communication strategy. And as I mentioned earlier, we make sure that if there's any resistance, we deal with that head on early enough, uh, and make sure that people understand the change and the need for it, so that they open up, and we create that desire in them to participate and adopt the change. So for that, once we've done our assessment, we prepare change management plans, and these plans typically include communication plan, training plan, and support plans to support the people throughout the change. And then, and these plans are always iterative because we keep
Right.
assessing, reassessing, and changing our plans accordingly based on what we're seeing on the ground. We conduct pulse surveys, interviews, cafes to keep following up with the people, keep fingers on the pulse to know that how the change is being perceived by the people and how they're reacting to it, and what changes are needed to make sure that it's going in the right direction.
Right. So, sir, can you share some of the examples of your successful change management initiatives that you've led in the past?
Yeah, I remember my first project, 2007. We implemented an SAP system, and that was a good project from change management point of view as well, because we had a very good sponsor.
Right.
Any people-related issues or challenges, his doors were open. We could go and see him, and he would take decisions immediately and make sure that any resistance, any issues, any unanswered questions were answered. So that was a good example of a project which was successful because of very strong sponsorship and leadership. I also worked on a behavior and culture change program where the company went through a major corporate transformation program, and they realized that unless our culture was aligned with our aspirations, we will not be successful entirely. And that meant having more of critical behaviors like structured decision making, empowerment, timely people conversations, and collaboration. So we worked on that project to create those behaviors or increase those behaviors in the organization. That's where you have to employ some behavior science techniques, and moving away from pure traditional change management to more, using psychology of change. So we, for example, identified influences among the people who were already demonstrating those behaviors and got them to speak to their colleagues. We created some success stories and we shared So these are some software mechanisms that we employed in addition to standard mass communication training that we do in typical change management project. So that is another example of successful change where we touch the culture and behaviors of the people.
Right. So, sir, how do you approach internal communications to ensure that the messages are effectively communicated to all stakeholders during the period of change?
So communication, as I mentioned, that we prepare communication plans based on the stakeholders that we've identified and their needs for communication and training. And typically, a communication means that in addition to messages that we send to them via email or we create videos, we have our online messages. We also have town halls from time to time where we get the leaders to come and speak to the people, answer their questions. Sometimes we hold cafes, conduct pulse surveys, and try and create this two-way dialogue. Sometimes we will even have some games or activities where people come and participate to create that community feeling and constantly making sure that there's two-way conversations are happening and they're participating in the change willingly and openly, and they have this desire for change. They're not afraid of the change, uh, and that communication continues throughout the project. And we use and the idea with communication is that you get the message across, preferably in different ways, at least 3 to 5 times until it's registered. So we don't just communicate something once and feel that it's done, like send an email and say, yes, we communicated.
Right.
We don't stop at that. We continue to reinforce the message.
So, sir, how do you stay updated and informed about the changes and the developments in the field of change management and communication?
Yeah, no, that's a good question as well. What I do, for example, is that I've been trained in change management. I went to US to get trained in a methodology called ProSci. This is the leading change management methodology. So I'm their trained ProSci trainer in change management. I'm also certified in change management from Association of Change Management Practitioners. They have their own uh,
Right.
exam called CCMP, Certified Change Management Professional. But on an ongoing basis, I participate in webinars, I attend change management events. I'm very active on the change management communities, so often post articles or I participate in online conversations. So by communicating with other professionals, we share knowledge with each other, we advise each other online. So that's the way I think anyone who's interested in change management should make sure that they continuously, talking and learning, and you never stop. And that's the only way you can grow.
Right. So, sir, what challenges do you basically face in your role and how would you address them?
I think the biggest challenge is resistance to change, and we always anticipate that there will be some resistance. The main challenge is to find out the cause of that resistance. Where is it coming from? It could be because of business reasons as well as sometimes personal reasons as well. Because some people might say, okay, I'll give an example. There was a case where they moved training center from the company's, where it was company's offices to another distant location. They thought it'd be better to move it away, which was about an hour and a half drive. While it
Right.
was a good area, good location, it was by the beach, but some people did not like that because that means every time there was training course, they had to travel all the way there. So you realize that sometimes people have personal reasons for resisting change. So whatever
Right.
the source of resistance is, you find out what that is. Don't make assumptions, and then you address it accordingly. So that is the biggest challenge. And the second one is culture, because culture means that there's so many unwritten rules, beliefs that people may have. No two people are the same. Uh, so we have to also understand culture and make sure that your change is aligned with that, because sometimes the change expects certain behaviors, but which may not be in the organization or may not be as abundant or prevalent. For example, decision making. If you need timely decision making, you need people on the ground to take decisions. But if they're not empowered enough, they're afraid to take decisions, that then even with the best of systems and processes, those decisions will not be forthcoming unless the leaders openly come out and say, yes, we want people on the ground to take those decisions. It's okay. That's something we're going to support. So culture is another challenging area for change managers.
Right. So, can you describe a particularly memorable or significantly successful story of your own that you've seen during this time of change?
Yeah, I think going back to the behavior program, I realized that once we were in a training course, boot camp, and we were training companies' middle management on these critical behaviors, as I mentioned, decision making, empowerment, collaboration, and people conversation. And we felt that people are still kind of resisting. They want to show that this will work in their environment or in their organization because they knew that these behaviors were was there in abundance. Uh, so until what we did was we brought people who had graduated from a program previously. I remember when somebody came who they knew, and he was another manager, and that person said, "Yes, I know how what you're thinking. I was there 3 months ago, thinking exactly the same. But yes, not going to work here." Until we went and we tried certain things, and he started listing those things he did, one, two, three, and the results that and you could see visibly on the faces that that resistance was just going down, and they started to open up because they said, well, okay, these guys are selling the program, that's their bread and butter, but why would somebody who we know is one of us tell us so
Exactly.
passionately about the change? So that was, I think, a very satisfying moment to see people visibly opening up to change, and their faces just changed and lit up. So it was very rewarding for us.
Right. So, how do you foster collaboration and communication among different teams or departments within the organization?
Yeah, and that is one of the areas that we had in the behavior program, how to create cross-departmental organization communication. So again, the way to do that was to identify people from those organizations who naturally talk to others, they network across the boundaries. So that was one way of getting people to talk through those who are already talking. The other ways are to formalize the communication. For example, you hold some sessions where you invite people from different organizations and run some get to know your colleagues type of session. You can do that in a light way through some games and activities where they participate together, and that breaks the ice between them, and also address any barriers. For example, like there were two organizations, two departments, and they were very formally communicating with each other through letters. And one of the mechanism to break that was to leaders to pick up the phone and talk to each other or go and visit each other, which wasn't happening. But through some coaching and encouragement, when they started to do something which they hadn't done before, they were able to solve different problems or break these barriers. So that's just an example of how sometimes you can, through different mechanisms and through some careful planning and implementation of some mechanisms, you can increase communication, increase trust, increase collaboration between different organizations.
So, outside of work, what are some of your hobbies, or I would say interests, that you are passionate about?
Mm. My passion outside is I enjoy business and life coaching. I'm trained as a NLP, which is Neuro Linguistic Programming, as an NLP coach. So I do that, and I help young entrepreneurs with their businesses and overcome challenges that they face early on. I also like going to the gym and spend time with my family and my kids. So we often go together and play badminton or golf, or just hang around together. So yeah, which is that's what we do as a family.
So, what would be that one advice that you would want to give to somebody who is aspiring a career in your field?
Yeah, change management is one area where we've always struggled to find good change managers, especially when it comes to Pakistan, India, or other part of the world. You can get good technical people, but change management with soft skills is always a challenge. So those who aspire to be change managers, first and foremost, go and work somewhere where you and try and learn about the key processes in an organization. finance, HR, supply chain,
Right.
marketing. So once you understand the organization, then you'll be in a better place to implement changes there. And then also get some training in change management as well. As I mentioned, there are several courses out there. I also have an organization where we have developed a change management course. It's a 3-day program. You get a certificate. So I encourage people to, and we're going to launch that soon in Pakistan, by the way. So we encourage people to attend our training or anyone else that they prefer to, but get some formal training, get some experience, and then be genuinely interested in people. Try and put yourself in their shoes and see, look at the change from their point of view, or from their perspective, to see if there's any resistance. For example, why are they resisting it? So if you're genuinely interested in people, you learn about the business, get some training so that you can implement change in a structured way. Then I think you'll be in a good place to be better place to be good change managers. Then of course the rest comes through experience.
Definitely. So, sir, finally, how do you see the future of change and management and communications evolving, and what do you envision yourself playing at this evaluation?
Yeah. So I believe the change management as a profession is where project management was perhaps 10, 15 years ago. Now it's becoming more established and being recognized as a profession and something that is needed at work in projects. So this demand will increase over time, especially now that we have technologies, digital technologies and others, AI and all of machine learning, which are very disruptive. So with this disruption, people need more change managers to deal with these waves of change which keep coming, and they're getting bigger and bigger. And that requires careful change management and transformation management. Otherwise, people that can impact businesses negatively, because in some cases the technology is or the need for technology is so big that can disrupt your current business or current ways of working. And some cases you need a totally different business model, and that's why you need change managers, because otherwise most of the time management in the company, they're trained to maintain the status quo, and, maintain a safe environment. That focus can be sometimes get in the way of making changes or transforming. So you need somebody to help you to manage that. That needs some different mindset and beliefs, which again you need a coach to do that. It's a good profession. It'll be in a lot of demand, but it is going to
Right.
be challenging going forward.
So, sir, done with everything. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that our viewers would be able to learn something out of this discussion. Once again, thank you for pulling out time for this discussion.
Thank you, Asha. Appreciate. Thank you for the interview. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Take care.
And you take care. Bye bye.